starting. Okay, and hello guys, welcome back to episode. Oh my God, here we go. We're already starting off with a crappy intro. This is episode 5 of season 2 of Waves. I am your host, Nate, and you guys know my co-host. Say hello, Alexandra.
Hello,
Oh my goodness.
Alexandra.
Yes.
Say Nathaniel.
Okay, so wow, we're really using up our names today.
You started it.
I know, and you're gonna finish it, so that's how it works.
Okay.
Well, first things first, I know we'll say Happy New Year, even though it's the 4th week in January. We are really, really late behind that, but we just had to take a break, just everyday life comes into play, and we had to just, give ourselves a little bit of break and stop recording. We also celebrated birthdays, one month apart. He's 28-year-old, and
Mr. 28-year-old.
exactly. So, excuse me. I apologize. So, how's everything been?
Everything's been good.
Everything's been good? Okay.
Yeah, Holland birthdays and New Year, but job promotion.
Woo woo, look out now.
So yeah, everything's pretty good. Riley's growing fast. She's a little whirlwind.
Oh yeah, she's been getting quick.
So smart. Oh my gosh. She's very ahead for her age.
Well, so that's
very
funny.
Thankful and grateful for that.
Well, it's funny. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. It's funny you mentioned jobs because today we're actually going to talk about. I actually put the poll out. Not a poll. I actually put a question out on Twitter, Instagram, and actually put it on Facebook. What are your worst job experiences you've ever encountered? It could be from a current job or a previous job. So we will actually start out with ours first, and I will actually read some replies I've gotten from other people, and then we'll go from there. So would you like to start off first, Alex, or would you like to hand me this one?
It's so weird you saying Alex.
I know, it is weird.
Usually it's babe. So sure. All right. So my worst work experience. I'm not gonna name the business.
Okay.
That's not appropriate. Was probably 4 years ago, because I started with my company 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And
your current company, correct?
Right. So we were working after hours and setting up the store, which also, being baked because of it being a well-known company. 4 years ago when I was with my last company, we were there with the staff. I was the team lead and involved going in and out of the back door, and I had to get some things out of the storage unit. And I guess because it was so late at night, there'd be occasional, the dumpster divers back there. But this particular night, there were a few cars that were driving by as, myself and some of the staff were going in and out of the back door into the storage unit, getting what we needed to complete the overnight shift. And I guess somebody must have called in because we were after hours, we were in just regular day clothes. And somebody called it in that we broke into the storage unit. So when I'm in the storage unit, that's what I'm calling it, I heard loud cars rushing into the parking lot, crowding the unit, and I couldn't see it, but you can kind of tell what's going on by the noise. And something in my gut said to run, and then instantly something told me not to run. I listened to that one. And it's a good thing I didn't run because, mind you, I found out later that someone called in that they suspected that someone broke into the unit. So I heard cop cars in their loudspeaker saying to come up out of the unit with your hands up, walking slowly. So mind you, if I would have ran, things probably would have ended differently for me. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I came out of the unit, looking down at the ground, not knowing what to expect, with my hands up in the air as I was asked. And as I kind of just glanced up, I have 3 officers with their guns drawn, all pointed at me. And it's really not funny. But it's funny because I still can't believe this happened to me. Yeah, three officers with one on my left, my right, and right in front of me. And they said to move slowly and keep my hands where they were. Mind you, loaded guns pointed at me. And when I first heard the noise coming in the parking lot, I had that instant thought to run because I didn't know who it was at first. There were no lights on or anything for me to know, like cop lights, until they started speaking to the speaker. And they had their guns drawn to me until they could figure out who I was, what I was doing, who everybody else was. And then I got really upset because it was like the shock and the adrenaline kind of toned itself down my body. I'm like, oh my God, like if I would have ran, they probably would have shot at me, probably like in the leg or something. But yeah, when you have 3 guns drawn at you for really doing nothing wrong at all, literally, that can kind of change your perspective on things. And then the cop had come over and he apologized. He's like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to upset you, but you have to understand where we're coming from when you get a call in saying that someone broke into something. And yeah, I finished my shift out. And when I went inside and told my boss, she really didn't care. And so after that, then I started thinking, wow, that's some boss. After knowing what happened when I told her, she literally had no care. It was like, okay, let's just finish what we need to do. And yeah, it wasn't long. I don't think it was very long after that when I had worked a 20-hour shift with 1 30-minute break that I ended up with my company I'm with now. I was recruited. So that whole experience behind. So yeah, usually when I see a cop, I usually always think back to that, and it plays in my head like a movie. I still can't. I just can't understand.
Was there anybody else out there with you, like a coworker or any of that, or was it just you?
There was one coworker in the unit with me because we had to go out to, like, in pairs. You couldn't go out by yourself. It was late. I mean, we were there at 2, 3 o'clock, sometimes 4 or 5 in the morning, finishing the inside of the store.
I remember you coming home. You didn't come home that morning. Well, you came home late.
And I had told her, I was like, oh my God, what is that noise? Like, what's going on outside the unit? Like, we were outside, just the 2 of us. Like, it was a walk to the back door, and usually somebody had to stay at the door with the prop open. Like, there was always like 2 outside.
It was a rough part of
and we were, for some reason, the person who should have been at the door wasn't at the door.
Was it a rough? Yeah, where are you working? Like at that moment was a rough part of town. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it was down Orlando on East Colonial Drive. So that's definitely not the right neck of woods to be in at that time of morning.
Well, yeah, I was trying to like just keep.
Well, it's out now. I mean, it's not a surprise to nobody what kind of area that is.
Oh, yeah, it can be a little rough down there sometimes.
When I told her, I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? I was like, to stand still, don't run, just don't move.
Yeah.
And because something just in my gut when I thought to run. Yeah. Something just told me don't, and I listened to that, and it's a good thing I didn't, because when I was told by the officer that they thought they got a call that somebody broke in, anybody that's any cop that has that kind of call and sees someone running, that's instant, like, either, oh my God, I need to get out of here because I'm going to be seen as I'm doing something wrong, or it's I am doing something wrong, I'm trying to flee. Like, they would have shot at me.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Without knowing any information. Yeah. And then running into the store, that would have made things 10 times worse. Yeah, because I would have been shot, I would have been handcuffed. I mean, it would have been a whole process until they realized, okay, she wasn't breaking into the thing.
Wow. You got any other crazy stories or jobs that you possibly worked at? Was that just a major one that you've had that you can recall?
There was actually one other one. It was over in Apopka. I'm not going to say the business name, but there were 2 dogs It was not a vet clinic. It was in Apopka, and there was 2 dogs I got. I guess the owner came to pick them up, and they were 2 small dogs. They broke off their collar. I'm being excited to see her. They were hyper dogs, and they ran out in the middle of 436. And well, they were in the parking lot heading towards that way.
Wow.
And when that was another moment that I had kind of like looked out the window and I'm like, oh my God. And I just made a beeline. Everything I was doing was just like, it was like a moment of fight or flight. That's the only fight or flight moment I've ever had in my life. And that was it. And I just bolted out the door. I didn't say nothing. I just ran out in the middle of 436 and got both the dogs.
So you nearly died for 2 animals.
Both of them. It was a little min pin and then a little miniature Aussie mix. So I had one that still had a leash attached. No, I think it was an older lady. She had one had got too excited and slipped the collar from around its neck. The other one pulled to go with the dog because they were, best friend dogs. And the other one pulled and the leash slipped out of her hand. So when I got the one on the leash, I had control of that one, and I got the little miniature Aussie out of the road. And then got them back to the owner. I still have her card because she gave me a card. She gave me a whole bunch of gift cards and everything. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
I forget what her name is, but I wouldn't say right now anyway on this. But
well, if you can remember,
yeah.
It's okay.
And then every time she came back, which was usually every 2 weeks, she would. Is Alex gonna be there?
Yeah.
She always let me do whatever she needed done to the dogs.
That's pretty cool.
That's probably really the only time, really. Can't really think of any. I haven't had many jobs. I'm not a job hopper, so those are the 2 times. What about you, Nathaniel? What is your worst work experience?
Well, I've had a couple. I mean, I won't name the place I used to work. Well, a couple places I used to work. I won't name any names. I'll disguise the other people who are in the stories and everything else. So the very first story I had working is at an animal hospital. I'm not going to really go into details of which one it was. I was actually working, taking care of the animals that were boarding there at the facility. And it was usually we have warnings and stickers and labels on dogs that are a little bit skittish or afraid or, handle with caution or caution may bite. If there's any certain type of people they have to deal with, if they're comfortable with like a male or a female compared to anybody else. And I go to take this little dog.
It was a Dachshund mix.
Yeah, it was a Dachshund mix.
Black and brown, long hair.
Yeah. He was
bastard.
He was a little fuzzy bastard, but nobody really had. He seemed perfectly fine and everything else. We were getting ready to take him back up and everything else. I think I was about to take him outside for the afternoon. I take him out. He seems perfectly fine. I have a leash on him and everything else. I grab him. I have him underneath my arm. And, I think I was talking to another coworker or whatever. I can't remember who I was talking to, but that's not important here or there. But I go and turn around, and the dog turns around and bites me right on my top lip. So I panic. I drop the dog. I'm pissed because I'm like in just a shock. Like
then with a split second, he just like turned on you.
He just turned on me in a split second. Mind you, there's no warning on him or anything else. I'm like, oh hell no! Tell me this just didn't happen whatsoever. I look, my lips split. I'm freaking fortunate. I was, didn't have to get stitches. It healed on its own, but it's just the way the dog turned and snapped on me out of nowhere. I was so pissed. I'm just like, you know what? I can't deal with this right now. I was really, really pissed off, and I'm like, before I really, really harm this dog, and I know it's not my dog, I'm just like, please somebody else come get this dog. And I stormed out. And the shitty part about this whole situation was we told the owner about what had happened and what had transpired, and they acted like, oh well, we're sorry, and you can tell when people are genuinely sorry, and then people are just like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, there's a complete difference. It just really pisses me off because it's like they weren't even genuine about, oh well, he never does this and da 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 da. They're trying to say this, and like, so what really causes dogs to do this now at all the times? Like, I don't know. That was just one of those instances where I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
He came back a few other times too.
Yeah.
A real bite all over the jar, red marker.
He was a little douche, so I never really cared for the dog. Neither did our owners either, so they're always kind of rude and snobby and think they really like just own the place when, we're doing you a service by helping your little shitty ass dog. So that was one instance.
Okay, next one.
Yeah, that was that instance. The second one, the same as Alex, about 4 years ago. I was working alongside my uncle at this hospital, and we would basically end up serving food to patients or people who were staying in the hospital, patients and everything else. And we had our basic rapport. You had to go through, hello, introduce yourself, just any type of service, gestures. Hello, how are you? What would you like today? You have certain restrictions. If you're diabetic or low sodium, or if you're about to go into if you're on a special diet or anything else. So I remember one morning I'm delivering breakfast to a patient, and I go over the whole spiel. Hello, how are you? How you doing? And this guy, he seemed to look a little bit groggy out of it. He kind of looked, as crazy as it sounds, the serial killer Charles Manson?
Yeah, I know what Charles Manson looks like.
He kind of resembled Charles Manson, like in the appearance and everything else, but he was pretty cool. So I'm trying to stay professional and everything else. He's, just talking, oh yeah, everything's good, it's okay. So I go and I ask him, sir, would you like any coffee, cream, sugar in your coffee this morning? And me not realizing his nurse was coming in and out. His nurse happened to be, she happened to be black. And it's just the funniest shit ever because it's like, he's like, nah, don't worry about it, man. I like my coffee like I like my women, hot, black, and nasty. So he's basically, this older gentleman is basically trying to hit on his nurse. And me trying to be professional, I could not. I broke character. I started laughing and I was trying to be professional, but I could not keep it. The funniest interaction I had that whole day was between that man and that nurse. I'm like, I am so sorry. I did not mean to laugh. She's like, oh no, don't worry about it. It's okay. He's been trying to holler at me all day. I'm like, oh my God, this poor nurse is getting. I know, but this nurse is getting harassed by this older man.
Sorry, not to sound sexist, but
I know, true. But it's just funny to me because I broke character. I was trying to stay professional, but just the way he said it, his delivery and everything else, I'm like, oh my God. That happened to be the funniest thing whatsoever.
Back to another one.
Wait, let me finish my other ones. So, another time, I was actually just helping deliver some items to the floor my uncle was actually working on. We happened to be riding on the elevator, the very first floor, and we had to go all the way up to the 14th floor.
Are we serious going to talk about this on a podcast?
Oh yeah, it's funny because knowing him, I never see him cry from laughter so hard. So we get stuck we're on the first floor. We ride up to the 5th floor. 3 or 4 doctors get on the elevator with us. Mind you, I'm having a little bit of an issue. I've got some gas here and there, so I let out a SBD, aka a silent but deadly.
Oh my God, what is wrong with men?
But it's just so funny because it's just like, oh my God. I look at him, he looks at me. He knows I did it. I tried not to. I'm like, dude, just don't look at me. Oh my God, we're sitting here on the elevator. They get off on the 12th floor, luckily, and then we get off on the 14th floor. He looks at me. He's just like, dude, are you serious? Did you really just let wind break? And the doctors no-sold it the whole ride up. I'm like, oh my God. Mind you, he's looking at me. He's saying, oh my God,
it's called professionalism.
I know. He's like, I can't believe you just did that. He's dying laughing. Tears are rolling down his face. Oh my God, that was great. Between that, and we used to pull pranks all the time too. We would pull like for people who were working in the inventory room and stock room, they'd have to go into these the freezers in the work. So we would stack milk crates in front of the door for people who were stuck in the freezer. Oh my God, we were just terrible. We were a bunch of asses to everybody else. What was your other story?
Wow. The other day I was calling for somebody, and the name of the person sounded like the word date, and a man answered the phone, and obviously it wasn't the person I was calling for, and he was some young punk, and he was like, I was like, hi, I'm calling for so and so, and he's like, oh, you want to go on a date? I forgot to tell you about this, and I was like, no, this is so and so calling from so and so where. I'm calling for so and so. And he's like, oh, well, if you want a date, I'm all down for it. I'm single and ready to mingle. So can I get your number? Oh, wait, let me look at my caller ID. And I was like, oh my God, I swear, like young punks, like this is why they don't hold relationships. And I said, no, you can't have my number. And no, it's not the one on caller ID. And no, I'm not looking for a date by nobody, especially you. I'm calling for so and so. If you don't have them next to you or near you, you can hang up the phone, or I will first.
Oh shit!
Because he just kept going on about it, making like jokes, and just he was so immature. I'm like, you probably like in your late 20s, and you're being this immature about like that's why you're single. Like the way he was speaking and the way he was like coming off and how he was saying like the whole thing about him, I'm just like, wow, no wonder you're single. And I'm like, I'm literally calling for somebody, and instead of saying, oh no, you have the wrong number, it's like this whole spiel of immaturity nonsense about a date when I have never even seen your face. Like you're basically asking me, oh yeah, I'm ready to mingle, single, I'll go on a date just because the person I'm calling for, their name sounds like date. And with the mask, it kind of muffles things.
Oh yeah, that's gotta suck up.
And it wasn't like the worst or the craziest work experience. It's just something that I just thought of because it was just when I finally just hung up the phone.
Oh.
Because he just kept going on about wanting to go on a date. Oh, you're calling for a date. You're calling for a date. Well, you called me. You must be calling for a date. Like he just kept going on about it. And I'm just like, dude, shut up. Like.
It's funny.
I don't have time for that.
Oh, here's another instance that happened at the hospital where we were working. It didn't happen to either of us, but it happened to a coworker. So what we have to do is sometimes certain floors run out of inventory, so we'll have to go back to the kitchen, restock, and then send them off to the floors. So one of our coworkers happened to be restocking a floor. He stopped to go and use the bathroom, and he walked in on two nurses actually doing the deed. They hooked up with each other.
What?
He walked in on two nurses actually just.
I never heard that story.
Yes. This didn't happen.
There's probably many stories I don't know about.
I don't know. This didn't happen to me or my uncle at all. It just happened to one of our coworkers at the time. I was like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, man, full blown." I was like, "Oh wow."
They could have got fired for that.
Yeah, that's wild. That is wild. But then again, I'm like
you work so hard for your career and your degree, and you're gonna go and do something like that for a quick moment feeling.
Well, I think I didn't know.
Wow.
I don't know about
that moment doesn't last very long. You risk everything.
I know, but that's their business. I'm not gonna I was just scratching my head. I was like, oh wow, that's a little crazy. Yeah, there are a bunch of stories like that though. The ones though that really
Grey's Anatomy.
No, the ones that really like.
It's been a thrill for them. Ooh, let's make it feel like Grey's Anatomy.
Oh my god, here we go.
Meredith and Dr. Shepard.
Oh my god, I hate that show with a passion.
You know what? You should hear what it says about you.
I really hate that.
You know what I hate it with a passion? Your phone right here in your face all the time.
Well, I actually put that out there. Yeah, don't try to kiss up now. That's what you're trying to do. No, stop. But I don't know. One of those instances too. Like I would dread this so much, but we'd have to deliver to like psych, which they'd have to get utensils and they'd have like sitters and everything else in the rooms. And man, that was on edge the whole time because you never know what you were gonna get walking into the rooms. Some people would be handcuffed to like the bed. Some people would be restrained. I'm like, that's some serious business, seeing that firsthand. I was like, wow.
You know what we should do since this episode was your worst work experience?
Oh.
Our next episode should kind of like stem from this episode, and it'd be the what are the crazy experiences you experienced living in an apartment?
Oh, just living experiences? Oh, okay.
In an apartment.
In an apartment? It doesn't necessarily have to be.
In an apartment.
Why?
And then the next one after that could be about like the house buying process.
Okay, yeah, we'll see about the whole house buying process because that one
kind of like my worst nightmare or something like that. Like we can make it out like my worst nightmare buying a house, or other people could be my worst nightmare in a relationship, or whatever you want to call it. I think that'd be kind of actually very interesting. You should take my advice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, I got it all. But,
so tune in next time for our next episode.
Well, we're not done yet because like I said,
I was just saying.
Oh, well, like I said, I just put it out there. I put the question out there, and I actually got some funny responses that I'm actually going to read from some of the viewers. Or not viewers, some of the listeners. I apologize. So I went on Twitter and I got a couple responses. One of the responses I got was from the What Plot podcast. So if you guys go check them out, subscribe to them, listen to them, they're really hilarious. So the one I actually got was from, I want to say Dylan? Yes, Dylan. One of the hosts, Dylan, told me he actually worked he was an employee for one of the call centers for one of the places where, help me, I've fallen and I can't get up type of things. So he basically told the story, or he sent me the story of he accidentally solicited sex to an old lady at 2 o'clock in the morning. And he was reading. He happened to be reading. He said he happened to be reading. He was allowed. He'd probably get like 2 or 3 calls an hour overnight. He happened to be reading a book, and when a call came in, he said, "Thanks for calling Lifeline. This is Dylan. Do you need sex?" He said, because the line I left off in the book mentioned sex. So that happened to be one funny thing. And I can only imagine that person's face, though. That would be pretty freaking hilarious. Another one I got was from. Hold on here, I apologize. Happened to be from the Happy Hour with the Hamilton Bros. You can check them out as well. Subscribe and listen to them. In their one episode, I believe episode number 5, one of the hosts actually explained how he happened to be out on a job site, and he happens to look over, and this guy, thinking nobody's around him, just goes and puts his whole forearm in his pants and starts going to town, scratching, he was doing the most, just scratching. He got deep down in there, scratching everything up, and he turns around, locks eyes with the guy, and just like looks in utter disappointment, like, "Oh my god, I'm caught. There's no trying to hide this whatsoever." Oh my god, that shit was really funny. Those are pretty interesting. And I also have other ones too. I apologize. I've got 2 more from Facebook. Put that on the Facebook as well. The other 2 I received were from a gentleman, one by a gentleman named Ray, saying, "Once I worked at a drugstore in '92. 2 little girls called, with one pretending to be an old lady needing hearing aids, the other listening on another receiver. He's like, after a couple of minutes of telling her that we only sell batteries because of hard of hearing, she said thanks. Her friend hung up the phone, so she thought that I was the one beating him. He was the one who hung up. She started to brag to her friend that she had fooled him. He's like, when she said, 'Did you hear me ask him?' I said, 'Yeah, I heard.' She screamed and hung up the phone." So she thought she was going to get away with that. Oh my god, that's pretty funny. And then I have one more, but it's going to have to be on the next part of the episode. Hello, and we are back with the second half of our episode. And our final response from from the first job experience happens to come from another gentleman by the name of Bunting. He said he worked in a group home for delinquent youth. He said a kid wrote an obscene message for the staff on the bathroom wall in his own feces. So,
okay, I'm not gonna comment.
Yeah, and that happened to be.
Because of where he's working.
Oh no! This was a former place of work.
Yeah, no, I'm
So,
not gonna comment on that.
yeah, so that it's just one of those wild things. That's good. So yes, make sure to like, share, subscribe to the pod. Also, if you have any questions whatsoever, please DM the pod on Instagram or on Twitter. Email the podcast at wadespodcast@gmail.com. Make sure to also follow the other podcast, What Plot Podcast, and what was the other one? I do apologize. The Happy Hour with Hamilton Bros podcast. So, yes, that'll do it for this episode. You guys have a good one. See you with the next one. Peace.